Hello, everybody. My name is Winston Kelly. Some of you may know me. I'm a team member on OCFO's Strategic Management Office team. I'm here today to walk us through some more tips and tricks for the Google Suite. These will hopefully be helpful for you in working with your colleagues here at OCFO and within NOAA. They have been helpful for me in learning how to use this set of tools and this platform. And so without any further ado, I'll now go into presentation mode and go over the tools and tips and tricks we will be using in this second session. Okay. Awesome. So start here with some of our tips and tricks. First thing I wanted to talk to everyone about is a tool we have access to here at NOAA called Jamboard. Some of you may have heard of this tool before. You may have even used it yourself. But I wanted to kind of overview it a little bit for those who might be a little bit new to it. So Jamboard is a tool that you can use in your team meetings. Think of it as a digital whiteboard, similar to those that we would use in our typical breakout rooms. It's one you can all edit together in real time, and it allows you to gather thoughts, organize things visually, and better collaborate while we work from home. And this will be particularly helpful for those folks as we continue to work throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, but also will be helpful in the future when we have certain team members working on site and others working remotely. So here's an example of Google Jamboard. And before I go too far into depth on what we're seeing here, I'll just show you how you can create one yourself. So in your Google Drive, you can click the New button to create a new item. And you won't see it here. These are the top Google applications, docs, sheets, slides, and forms. It's under More. If you go down here and go to Google Jamboard, that's where you're going to find an opportunity to create a new one. And similar to all the other items in the Google Suite, you can change the name of this to whatever you see fit. That's how you create a new Jamboard. I'll go back to our example now. As you can see, we've got a number of different tools over here on the sidebar. We'll go through each of them. First off, you have your pen tool. This is pretty simple. You can use it to draw on the space so that all of your teammates can see. With all of these tools, if you see there's a little white caret right here, that means that there are additional options. So if you click and hold down here, you can see you can do a paintbrush, you can do a highlighter, you can do a marker, and you can change your colors. So that can be very helpful if, say, you want to designate certain colors for certain team members, so you know who's doing what while you're working in the document. So if we wanted to make the smiley face a little bit evil, give him some angry eyes. Next up is the eraser. As you can see, it functions just like any eraser would in real life. However, you can use it on any part of the Jamboard that you've previously written or drawn on. So this can be very helpful in kind of preparing you for additional sessions. So if you've filled it all up and you need to clear up some space, you can do so. There's another great tool if you need a little additional space. Up here at the top, you can click this button to expand the frame, and you can see this is the Jamboard we're currently working on. But let's say we wanted a fresh one. We simply click that plus button, and we've got a brand new board, while our previous board is still being retained. So that means we can preserve some of the previous notes that we've taken while continuing to have opportunity and space to do new notes. Additionally, you can set your background. So this can be very helpful if you want to, say, use the blue line graph. This makes it a little bit easier to draw things because you have these lines to guide you as you do. Just an additional tool, you can kind of change it to any number of these different backgrounds, or even find your own image and upload it directly. If you ever want to clear your frame, you can do so by simply hitting clear frame, and it'll remove everything that's currently on the frame. And that's a quick way to get back to your baseline. So next we have our select tool. This functions just like a regular mouse button would. So you can see there will be some objects on this that you can click and move around. For example, these sticky notes, you can drag and drop if you have your mouse icon selected. Same thing goes for if you wanted to edit a text box. Let's say it wasn't quite the right dimensions and you need to drag it out to change the size or shrink it down. You can do all of that using your mouse button. Next comes the sticky notes. You'll see here with sticky notes, you can choose a number of different colors. This can be very helpful if you are organizing your thoughts and want to color code them, or if you are working with a number of other colleagues and you want a way to kind of capture who is who based on which color they're using. You select the color and you'll see that it changes. On these sticky notes, you'll also find that they change the size of the text automatically based on how much text there is. So you only have a few words, you'll see this bar down here is continuing to grow. And you'll see that the words there are relatively large in size. However, if instead you have a lot of words, because you have a lot of thoughts, now you can see that those words have automatically reduced themselves in size so that they can still fit on the sticky note. And similar to our text box, you can always increase or decrease the size of your sticky notes to make them more or less legible. Next, you'll see this little item here to add an image. You can see I've already searched pool graphic. But when you click an item in the Google image search, that'll pull it directly from Google, and you can place it here. Again, you can increase or decrease the size of that item. But let's say we wanted to upload an item from our own computer. Instead of using Google image search, instead, we'll just go to upload. And then we can browse and find our favorite item and upload it directly from our computer. Next, you'll see we have a tool here for making predetermined shapes. So let's say that you wanted to make a table. You could do so by creating a box and then perhaps splitting it down the middle by doing a straight line. Well, that's kind of straight. Maybe you could do that instead by creating a straight line like this. That's a little bit better. So the key takeaway here is that you're only limited by your imagination. Google Keeps can allow you to do a number of different things. This last button here is your text box. And this is what you might be familiar with in PowerPoint or in slides, where you click to add a text box, and you can write directly in it. Just like any other text box, you can select all of your text in there, copy and paste it, change the size of it, and so on and so forth. The last item you'll find is the laser. The laser pointer can be used in group discussions and presentations to highlight certain items. Simply click, and you'll see that the laser functions just like a laser pointer would in real life. So that's a little bit of a primer on Jamboard. Hopefully that's been helpful, and I hope you all can use it in your future meetings. Next, we're going to talk about Google Keep. Google Keep is a great self-organization tool. You can use Keep to jot down short notes, almost like a virtual sticky note. So you no longer have to keep things juggling around in your brain. This is what Google Keep looks like when you first access it. You can get to Google Keep by going to keep.google.com. And you can also always access Keep on this little sidebar here in Gmail, similarly in Google Docs, or any other Google platform. You simply click in there and you'll get a quick sideboard version of Google Keep. And you can click this button to open it in a new tab, or you can take a note directly here. When you're in Google Keep, you'll notice that you have notes and reminders by default. Notes look like this. You can simply take a note in real time and add a title to it. Just like all other Google properties, you can find a number of other options down here. So let's say you wanted to add some image to your note. You can see I've got an example right here of a note with an uploaded image. You can also do drawings. So if you wanted to, you could click this More button and click Add Drawing, and you'll get a little whiteboard right here. And this allows you to easily add whatever information you need. And then when you're done, it's collected right there on the note. That can be helpful for some who are more visual learners. Another great feature of Google Keep is that it has a built-in task list function. So if you really like to keep lists of what you're up to, you can create a task list just like this one. And it has a built-in checkbox function. And you can see it sorts out those items that you've already completed. However, if you want to create a new one, simply click this button here that says New List. And you can see a new list where you can create new items. And you list them out, and then you can hit Enter, and they will appear. So another great way to keep track of things. And you can do this for different projects that have sub goals or subtasks and the like. An additional feature of Google Keeps is you can create reminders. So to create a reminder, you can either do so directly in your notes function and simply click this Remind Me button and select a date and time. Let's say tomorrow at 1 in the afternoon. Or you can switch to your Reminders tab and create a new note, and you'll see it's automatically set up to remind you. You can change this just like we did with the last example. Reminders are great because they will automatically flag you in whatever Google platform you are working on at the selected time, and you'll get a little banner display that showcases that you've got a reminder that's just come up. It's a great way to keep yourself focused while also maintaining confidence that you won't forget something. Let's say if you have an important meeting or an important item that you need to complete before the end of the day. Another feature of Google Keep is you can create these labels that are denoted by this little pointy window. What labels allow you to do is, rather than looking at all of your notes at once, you can look at all of those notes that you've labeled for a specific task. So, as you can see here, some of these I've already labeled as Google training examples. To do so, I simply click on this additional 3 dots here, and I hit Change Labels. And you'll see the labels I've already got here. I can also always create a new label, just like that. Then you'll see all of your labels laid out alphabetically over here. Just another great way to maintain organization and keep things grouped together so they don't get overwhelming if you're using this tool. You can edit your labels by clicking this button that says Edit Labels here. Finally, with all of your Google Notes, if you're done with something, let's say this example that I was making earlier that I didn't quite fully finish out, you can always delete them to free up additional space. And you'll see that they're moved to your trash. And remember, the great thing about Notes is that it is universal to all Google platforms. So let's say you're working on an email and you remember something while you're in the middle of writing the email, but you don't want to forget it. And you also don't want to pull yourself out of what you're actively working on. Instead of having to go to a different tab and click Google Keep, I can just click this little light board over here, and I can take a new note. That way, I've got it set up right over there, and I can get back to writing my email. Similar to Google Keep, there's another great integrated function called Google Tasks you can use that's located just below Google Keep in the same sidebar menu. Tasks, unlike Google Keep, does not have its own separate website, so you'll never have to integrate with anything like this. Instead, you can always access your tasks when you're in a Google app, whether that be your Drive, right there, in a Google document, or in Gmail. Tasks is a great way to integrate your scheduling and planning directly with your email. So you'll see I've got a couple of different examples here that I've pre-populated. I'll show you how that happens. If, let's say, you got an email. This is one that I typically receive from E&E News on environment and energy. Pretty pertinent for NOAA. Let's say I wanted to create a to-do item related to this email. I just select the email by pressing the checkbox over there, and then this little circular check mark with the plus allows me to add it directly to my tasks. You'll see that the line here is created based on the subject line of the email that we selected. However, you can always edit that. You can add additional details. And you can select a specific time that you want to get a reminder on your task. Or if it occurs more frequently than once, just like we do in Google Calendar, we can set up a reminder that it's daily, weekly, monthly, or even yearly. Finally, the best part about this integration is that you'll see there is a button that leads us directly to the email in question. And that's great because it allows you to track back to where the task originated from. I use this sometimes with my teammates when I get a new request from someone via email. That way, I don't have to keep all of the notes about what they're asking me for. Instead, I can just take a note in the task and link it directly to the request. That way, I can always return back to it when I need to reference it. It's also great because you can see, even if you're not in Gmail, if I click that button, it'll automatically open a new Gmail tab and take me directly to that email. When you're done with a task, you simply hit the checkbox, and you'll see that it's marked as complete. When you're making a new task, you simply click into this Add a Task section, and you can manually create one. Similarly, as I described before, you can add a title, details, and date and time. If you ever want to manually reorder your tasks, that's what this little series of dots over here to the left is. If I click and grab that, I can move this task anywhere, even down below. If you ever want to delete a task, you just right-click it and then select Delete. Tasks can also have subtasks associated with them. So if I wanted to, say, add a subtask to gather emails, now you'll see that the way this is visually represented showcases the overall task above with the subtask below. Finally, with My Tasks, you can also create a new list. So if you have multiple projects, you can keep things sorted based on the project that you're working on. So that's a little bit of an intro on Google Tasks. It's a great way to maintain a to-do list and to keep track of any new tasks or items that come across via email, because it has that great integration with Gmail. But do remember that you can't get to tasks, unlike most other Google products, like we showed with Google Keep. You cannot do tasks.google.com. That's not a website. The only way you can access your tasks is by going to this little sidebar here. The next thing I want to overview is another quick little hint on how to use strike-through commands in Google. We're all familiar with strike-through. We've used it probably in Microsoft Word for a number of years. And some of us might even know where to find it in a Google document, like this, for example. You go to Format, Text, Strike-through. But that can be a little bit of a burden. There's a really helpful shortcut, which is simply to select Control, Alt, and 5. Maybe not. Which one was it? Alt, Shift, 5. Okay, sorry. I'll have to change that in there. Alt, Shift, and 5 are the commands. Strike-through. You can do this across all Google products. So if I created a new task, a new email here, and I wanted to denote, say, a list of items that have already been taken care of, let's say we've already done item number 2, simply strike through it. It's just another great visual indicator to add to your toolbox within Google. And it's very helpful if you are working in a shared document and you want to denote something that needs to be removed. The next thing we wanted to overview here is how to update your profile within Noah. As you can see, my profile has this nice picture of me from my professional LinkedIn page. If you also want a picture, be it something of nature or a scenic photo or a headshot, you can do so as well by updating your profile in your NOAA account. You can access that by going to myaccount.google.com/profile or by clicking Manage Your Google Account directly underneath that. So under here, you can find a number of really great options to look through. As I mentioned, you can click here and change your profile photo and upload one. Perhaps I want something that's a little bit more neutral. I could do something like that. You can also look at your personal information and change things like your name. Oh, seems like I need to verify my password. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a second while I do that. Oh, that's all right. We can't change our names within NOAA. They'll always display like that. But maybe there's an additional thing that I can change. No, that might be it. It might just be our picture. But that's how you do it, in case you were ever curious how your coworkers are able to do that. Similar to your profile and your profile picture, you may notice that a number of different people at our organization have signature lines in their emails. And you can add one too, similar to how you've done it in other email tools, maybe like Outlook. So within Gmail, you want to navigate to this settings bar up here. That's the gear icon in the very top. And then click See All Settings. This will take you to your settings menu. And you can find all kinds of different settings, including general settings, labels, filters, inbox settings, advanced settings. So feel free to look around here and customize your Gmail experience so that it is best fit for how you like to communicate. You can change your default text style. You can manage autocorrect and spelling correct. But for our purposes, we're going to talk a little bit about the signature. So you see down here in the signature line, I've created one already. This is my default signature. It links to my LinkedIn and also mentions my position within OCFO. But let's say I wanted to create another one. I find that a lot of folks do this. They will have a different signature for replies. Because typically in a reply chain, you don't want to continue to have the same signature over and over again, especially if it's a longer one. So what I'll do for this one, looking here, I'll just grab the first couple of lines there. And that way, I have a new and better signature to use on replies. If I'm sending a new email, the signature will be this longer form one. If I'm sending a reply email, it'll just be the simplistic one. You can also add a custom picture to your signature. So I put this 50 years of science service and stewardship, our NOAA 50-year anniversary logo in here. But I believe we are closing in actually on our 51st year now. So let's go ahead and replace that with a more standard NOAA logo. So I'll hit remove on that. And then right under here, under insert image, looks like I can only use images that are on the web. So find a good NOAA logo. I could use this one. I could use this one. I think I like this one. So I will grab the image address and paste that in there. And you'll see a preview of it is already there. Now, you can see that this is quite a bit larger than my last one. So I can simply select that and change the size here. Let's go for a smaller version. And then I might even want to move that to a different location. Let's see if I can do that. And select it, paste it in there. And I'm sure there's a way that I can format this so that my text all appears to the right of it. But I'm not going to spend all of our time today doing that. This was just a quick introduction. So for now, I'll just remove it. But that's just another tool, another way you can use Google and create a customized signature for your Gmail. Next, we're going to talk about sharing access in G Drive. So we've all been in that position where we just received the dreaded email from our colleague that says, you forgot to share the document. It's embarrassing, but lucky for us, there are a number of ways that we can set ourselves up for success so we don't have to share as many documents. Obviously, you can always share a document by clicking the share button here and adding collaborators. You see there's a number of people from my team automatically in there. Or you can hit change and you can get the link to this document and change the permissions so that your teammates can edit it. Then you can just send them the link in a chat or via an email. However, if you want to avoid that or cut down on the amount of times that you have to do it, I recommend creating a shared team drive. So there are a couple ways you can do this. Now we're in my G Drive, and I'll showcase my projects folder. Got a number of different projects in here, and you can see my sharing settings right here. I'm the owner of this, but I've changed the sharing settings so that anyone within NOAA can view this folder. That way, if I share something at a later date, I don't have to worry about manually clicking share within the document because I know it's already been shared and anyone can access it. All of these informations are already shared, and that's indicated by the fact that you can see on this folder here that it's got an indicator that it's not just mine. That little person icon showcases that it's shared with others, as opposed to, say, some of my private folders, like my personal notes. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about how to create a shared drive. So you can see here, our CFO team has a shared drive. In here, there are a number of folks that are shared and have access to everything that's posted within here. You can change your shared settings by clicking that little icon on any folder. And that could be very helpful in setting up access to these folders. So if I wanted to make it so that my other teammates could access my project folders, I simply add them all here. And I give them editor permissions. And I hit send. I can also change the links down here and give universal editor access to everyone within Noah. If there are specific people you want to restrict access to, you can add them to a blocked list. But if I change the settings on this and add my team members, and then I unclick that notify people, now it won't send them an email. Instead, they'll just have access to this. And you can see all of their names listed here. If I were to create a new Google Doc, you'll see it prompts me to say, create in a shared folder. This item will be shared with the same people that have the shared access that I just created with this folder. And that's perfect. Now, when I'm working on this group document, instead of having to go in here and click share and manually enter everyone, oh, it's telling me I should name the document first. You'll see that all of those folks that I previously added are already shared with, and they have editor access. So I no longer have to worry about doing this time and time again every time I create a new document. Instead, that shared access is already preserved because I created the document in a shared folder. So if you have team members that you frequently work with on certain projects or on certain parts of your portfolio, it might be helpful to create a shared Google Drive folder and create all of your items and presentations and documents inside that folder so that they're already shared with one another. That way, you don't have to manually do it each time. Last but not least, the last thing we're going to cover in this training session is editing and suggesting mode. So this might be something many of you are already familiar with, but for those who aren't, we're going to go over it now. So within our Google Docs, or even some other Google items, let's say like slides or sheets, you'll see that there's an option up in the top right-hand corner to change your mode. Now, what this means is right now I'm editing. If I were to type something into this document, it would show up directly as I write it. However, if I switch to suggesting mode, anything I add will instead be a suggested edit. This is really great when you're working on shared items because you can track who's adding what. Whoever owns the document can preserve what they've originally written and take edits and suggestions as they come. If I'm in suggesting mode and I want to delete something, it shows up like that. And you can see that I've indicated a replacement. I can add certain words into sections of previously written text. And all of that is preserved as a suggestion, not as something I'm directly editing. Another mode you can switch to is viewing mode. So you can see here, and I don't know if you can hear it, but I'm clicking away at my keyboard, and it's not changing the document at all. This is a great mode to use if you're doing a final edit on a document, or if you're reading it for the first time. You can always increase the size by going to View and then going to Zoom. Additionally, you can change the size of the text in the document by holding down the Control button and hitting either minus or hitting plus. It's a great way to make a document a little bit more navigable. Another thing you can do in editing and suggesting mode is you can address each edit separately. So we change our view here so you can see it. You can see each new suggestion comes with its own comment box. So let's say that this was a new suggestion that came from a coworker, and I actually wanted a little bit of a follow-up on it. I could tag them in it and say, let's do it myself here. Is this and using this @ sign along with my official NOAA email will create an email and send it directly to the person that I've mentioned. That way, you can quickly communicate and collaborate with multiple people on a project and specifically tag them and send an email to them when you have a specific question. You can also do that by using plus. If you put plus, you'll get a full list of people. Once a suggestion is deemed correct or you're ready, you can just hit accept. And now that suggestion has become part of the text. If you ever need to revisit all of the suggestions and edits that you've previously had, Google is really great because it keeps a history of all of that right up here under comment history. If I click it, you can see all of the suggestions and edits that we just put in and accepted or replied to. So this is a great way to go back and get further clarification or showcase, kind of where a document went and why. You can also access that by hitting File and going to Version History, and then clicking See Version History. You'll see the document that you have, and it will highlight where those new edits showed up. And it'll show you who the user was that made those edits. So that's another great way that you can trace where things are going in a shared document, because it can sometimes be hard to know exactly who's doing what, when, where, why, and sometimes how. And that brings us to the conclusion of today's training. I hope it was really helpful for you all. I definitely did not know all of these different pieces of the Google Suite when I first started using it. It has been a constant learning process, and Google continues to roll out new features and updates all the time. So my lesson to you today is never feel like you're behind the curve, because we're all behind the curve on this. It's okay. That's why we have trainings and we have other staff members to kind of help us and share some of the load, because it can be really tough to keep up with all of the different features, nuances, and ins and outs of this platform. There'll be other trainings like this coming in the coming months, and I really hope that you can attend those as well and continue to build out your own knowledge of the Google Suite. Thanks so much for attending, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.